Hey, welcome to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you some insights about the worst narcissistic isolation tactic. So I've actually been working through this pattern in my present day of how this isolation tactic has been affecting me, how it's affected how I show up in the world, and how it affects my trust with others. And so basically, it kind of has to do with intelligence. So for really intelligent people like you and me, we have discernment. We trust our own eyes to some extent. You know, we're not perfect. But what that means is that we can recognize energies that are kind of distorted. So we can recognize when someone is, you know, existing in an energy of deception, or existing in an energy of malice, or any other kind of distorted energy. And we also know, you know, what phrases are indicators of certain behaviors, right? So when someone says certain things, it can indicate certain things about their character that we may not want in our life. And how this is how this is weaponized by narcissists. It's like our intelligence gets weaponized by narcissists because they project a lot, and they sometimes have enmeshment tendencies. So survivors may also have these enmeshment tendencies from their trauma. So when a narcissist is engaging in a behavior like, let's say, a savior complex, a enmeshed survivor might recognize and see that savior complex and take it as their own and be like, oh, I have a savior complex, or oh, this is how I act. And it's like, then when that innocent survivor goes to other safe people, they're like talking about their savior complex, and they look like a total narcissist. And it's like, but they're not actually a narcissist, they're actually far from it. And this is how narcissists make you feel deeply unseen. You know, and like you see that isolation, like, damn, it's sneaky, dude. What the fuck? That's sneaky shit. That's some sneaky shit. They get you to take on their projection, and then when you go and meet other safe people, you kind of scare them, and like they isolate themselves from you because they don't really know, like, they're not really sure who you are, you know. And so not only on like a physical level with like speaking about yourself in ways that aren't true, it can also happen on an energetic level. But I'm going to give another physical example. So it's like, sometimes we might misidentify ourselves as like lower than we are, or like not actually what we are. And like an example of this is like, let's say you grew up around a narcissist who had really violent tendencies. You might mistake your recognition of others' violent tendencies for your own violent tendencies. I want to be careful here though, because like, take responsibility if they are yours, but like, this is where enmeshment gets really fucked up. But so then you might go and tell other people that like you have violent tendencies, or you're not like straight up, but like almost say that. And what's actually happening is that there's like a misidentification of it's almost like when you misunderstand yourself and you talk about yourself from that misunderstood place, then you look like the narcissist, the person who's actually abusing you. And on an energetic level, this works with deception. So if someone listens to a narcissist narrative about you, and you have discernment and you're like super intelligent, when they're speaking to you from that place of the narcissist narrative, you recognize that energy as deception. And that it kind of breaks down trust within that relationship. And it's really interesting how like energy works. Because it's like, when you're existing in an energy of deception, it's like you can be being deceived by someone else. You can be intentionally deceiving someone else. And they're both still the same energy, deception. Right? So when someone is speaking from a place of them being deceived, you recognize that as deception. So I just got like an aha moment. It's almost like, so is there a new level of discernment that we can reach where we can see the difference between intentional deception and being deceived? What? If there is, I haven't reached that level yet, but maybe I'm on track, and maybe you're on track if you're on this video too. But yeah, so this this kind of dynamic also works really like well with like unsafe, right? Like when someone takes an action that puts themselves in danger, like for example going to a narcissist for support, they become unsafe. Like they're in the energy of being unsafe because of that action they took. And then any actions they take after that can make you feel unsafe with them. And it's not that like their character is unsafe. It's like they were unsafe when you talk to them. They were in the energy of unsafe. So, yeah. Narcissistic isolation tactic. And yeah, so it's almost like the weaponization of discernment is like the scariest isolation tactic, and this works really well. It makes everyone feel unseen. Like everybody doesn't feel like they're seen because like nobody truly understands that themselves. And I believe that understanding is power, you know? Like when we understand ourselves, that's when we take our power back, and that's when we really like start to shine and are able to have healthy relationships, right? Because understanding is the baseline of healthy relationships, right? We have to be able to understand each other. And narcissists, for example, what really is the core of narcissistic consciousness is the misunderstanding of the self. Like, to simplify it, the core of narcissistic consciousness is the misunderstanding of the self. These people were convinced that their truth was wrong, that their innocence was dangerous, that their beautiful joy was dangerous, and put them in danger, and all these things. And it's that great misunderstanding of like who you really are and what you really are. And like, think about it. So when you believe that innocence is dangerous, that joy is dangerous, that joy is bad, what happens? You become someone who is never happy, is never innocent, malicious, and all these awful things, all coming from this misunderstanding of being convinced through all these inversions that beauty wasn't beauty, that love wasn't love, and that like, yeah, and that's that isolation. So I'll talk a little bit about this. So I have done a lot of meditation, and I have a lot of self-awareness. So how my mind works is like, I'm often very aware of my thoughts and feelings, like very aware of them. And where my roadblocks have been recently is in recognizing, you know, through these enmeshment wounds, what are my thoughts and feelings and what are others' thoughts and feelings that I'm recognizing. And one pattern that I noticed within myself was that while I was in a kind of conflict with someone, I misidentified their energy and their emotional state that I discerned as my own. But then as I was doing a CBT worksheet, I was looking at my behavior. So basically it was like, you look at your thoughts, the emotion that they created, and then how that affected your behavior. And CBT is therapy, if you didn't know. It's like a type of therapy. And what I realized was that the emotions that I wrote down weren't actually like congruent with the behaviors that I partook in. So then it made me question my own interpretation of my emotions. I was like, okay, well, was I actually feeling all those negative emotions? Because the way I reacted to the situation was not so I wrote down like anxious, powerless, and fear. And I was like, the way I reacted to the situation wasn't anxious, it wasn't fearful, and it definitely wasn't powerless. I was like in my power, demonstrating autonomy and actually demonstrating care for myself, like lots of care and awareness of my emotional state. I was taking responsibility for my emotional state. So it was like, then it made me question, and I was like, it gave me this aha moment of insight where I was like, oh, So when I had identified my feelings as anxious, fearful, powerless, but what's actually happening was the other people in the other side of the conflict were actually the ones who were feeling deeply anxious, powerless, and fearful. And it was very evident that they were feeling that way because of how they came out in their behaviors. Like, the behaviors were very congruent with someone who's feeling really anxious and powerless. So, sorry, I'm feeling a little bit of stress in my heart. So if you're sensing that, I just want you to know that you're safe. Yeah. And it's me, not you. But yeah, whenever I kind of get a little bit dysregulated, I like to tap on my chest. Come back into the body. Okay. So, let's continue talking. What was I talking about? I lost my train of thought. Okay. So yeah. So my point was, it's almost like I wasn't truly seeing myself clearly in that moment, and recognizing my own emotional state and actually the health of my own actions. And maybe you experience that too. And so then that creates a sort of isolation, like when you're trying to communicate with people, like about who you are, or trying to receive help from others. It's like, you're like, well, I'm anxious and powerless. And so they're like, oh, you're anxious and powerless? Okay, here's what will help you with that. And then you feel like no one can help you because it's like, they don't, they believe you, but they don't, you've actually like misidentified and misunderstood yourself, you know? It's like, we can only be truly like helped when we like really see ourselves, you know? So yeah. And that's that enmeshment, right? Where we like, it's hard to tell like what's us and what's me, and then that causes that isolation, and you see how that's like an even deeper form of isolation, where it's kind of like you are trying to receive help and you feel like no one can give you the help that you actually need, because it's like they can't see you, you know? They can't see you because you don't see you. And yeah, narcissist isolation tactics. Is there anything else that I wanted to share in relation to this? Yeah, so this relates kind of like to the weaponization of like mental health systems. This is a textbook like narcissistic tactic. They weaponize mental health institutions, and so it's almost like they don't really have to, it's like they almost don't have to even like communicate with the people they're trying to weaponize against you, because it's almost like they implant the weapon into your psychology. They implant the weapon of you not seeing yourself and like misidentifying yourself as them. Because like, do you see that? Like, what? It's like, if the narcissist is always projecting onto you and you believe it, and you go to your therapist and you're like, hey, this is who I am, they're like, whoa, damn, this is who you are? Or therapists, not all therapists are really judgmental. I don't want to like scare anyone. But then they try and give you help that you don't need, you know? Thinking that you need it, like coming from a good place. So, yeah, the most awful narcissistic isolation tactic.